Hola a todos, bienvenidos de nuevo a nuestro canal. ¿Quieres mejorar tu inglés fácilmente? Si es así, estás en el lugar correcto. Entonces, comencemos con un aprendizaje en inglés que sea fácil mediante conversaciones fluidas. Hoy, Mónica y yo hablaremos sobre un tema que nos encanta: los viajes. Compartiremos consejos, experiencias y recomendaciones para que tus próximas aventuras sean inolvidables y practiques tu inglés.
Así es, Robin. Viajar es una de las mejores formas de aprender, relajarse y descubrir nuevas culturas. Así que, si te gusta explorar el mundo a la vez que mejoras tu comprensión y pronunciación del inglés, este episodio es para ti.
Antes de comenzar, no olvides darle like a este video, si te gusta, y suscribirte a nuestro canal para más contenido como este. Comencemos. Hey Veronica, have you ever thought about how traveling helps improve your English skills?
Absolutely. I think it's one of the best ways to learn. When you're in a foreign country, you're forced to use English in real situations. Have you had any travel experiences where your English was really put to the test?
Yeah, I remember when I traveled to London for the first time. I thought I knew English pretty well, but understanding native speakers with their accents was a challenge.
I totally get that. British accents can be tricky. Did you struggle with anything in particular?
Ordering food. I went to a cafe and asked for water, but they couldn't understand me until I pronounced it more like water.
That's classic. Accents can make a huge difference. I had a similar issue in New York. I asked for directions, and they spoke so fast that I only caught half of what they said.
That's another great point. People speak differently in every country. But that's the beauty of traveling. It forces you to adapt. Do you have any favorite travel destinations where English was super useful?
Definitely. I went to Thailand, and even though their official language isn't English, most people in tourist areas spoke it. It made getting around much easier.
Oh, Thailand sounds amazing. Did you pick up any useful phrases while you were there?
Yes, I learned how to say thank you in Thai, but English was still my go-to language for communication.
That's another great reason to learn English. It's the global language of travel. Have you ever traveled to a place where English wasn't widely spoken?
Yes, in Japan. Outside the big cities, not many people spoke English, so I had to rely on hand gestures and Google Translate.
Oh, wow, that must have been challenging. Speaking of travel tips, what advice would you give someone who wants to practice English while traveling?
I'd say don't be afraid to speak. Even if you make mistakes, people appreciate the effort. Also, learning some key phrases before you go helps a lot. What about you?
I agree. I'd also recommend staying in hostels or joining group tours because you meet people from different countries and the common language is usually English.
That's a great tip. Another one is to use apps like Duolingo or even set your phone's language to English while traveling.
Smart. It keeps your brain in English mode. Have you ever had a funny language misunderstanding while traveling?
Oh yes. In France, I tried to order a croissant, but my pronunciation was so bad the waiter laughed and corrected me. It was embarrassing, but also a great learning experience.
Ha ha, that's a good one. Mistakes are part of the journey. Speaking of experiences, what's your dream travel destination?
I'd love to visit Australia. I've heard the English there has a unique accent and slang. What about you?
Same here, Plus, I'd love to see the Great Barrier Reef. Traveling opens your mind so much.
Definitely. You get to experience different cultures, foods, and traditions while practicing English naturally.
Exactly. It's like a real-life language class. Before we wrap up, what's one final travel tip you'd give to English learners?
Keep a travel journal in English. Writing down your experiences helps improve your skills and keeps memories alive. What's yours?
That's a great idea. Mine would be to always ask questions. People love to help, and it's a great way to start conversations in English.
Love it. So, to everyone listening, don't be afraid to explore new places and use English as much as possible.
Another thing I love about traveling is the chance to practice English in real-life situations. Have you ever had a moment where you felt really proud of your English skills?
Another thing I love about traveling is trying local foods. Have you ever tried a dish that you couldn't pronounce, but ended up loving?
Yes, in Canada. I had a full conversation with a local about hockey, and I felt so confident using sports vocabulary.
Yes, in Vietnam. I tried pho for the first time, and it was amazing. I had no idea how to say it correctly, but the locals were very patient with me.
That's awesome. Sports are a great way to connect with people, even if you're not fluent yet.
That's a great point. I think food is a universal language, but knowing some English helps a lot when ordering.
Speaking of sports, have you ever attended a game or event while traveling?
Speaking of food, have you ever had a funny misunderstanding while ordering something in English?
Yes, I went to a soccer match in Spain. Even though I didn't understand everything, the energy was incredible.
Yes, in Italy, I once ordered pepperoni pizza, thinking it was the same as in the US, but it turned out to be a pizza with actual peppers on it.
That sounds like a lot of fun. Another thing I love about traveling is the chance to try new activities. Have you ever done something adventurous like hiking or scuba diving?
Haha, that's hilarious. I guess that's another reason to learn some basic food vocabulary before traveling.
Yes, I went hiking in New Zealand, and it was breathtaking. The views were worth every step.
Absolutely. Another tip I'd give is to watch movies or TV shows in English from the country you're visiting. It helps you get used to their accent and slang.
That sounds amazing. New Zealand is definitely on my bucket list. What other destinations are you dreaming of visiting?
That's a great idea. I did that before visiting Ireland, and it really helped me understand their accent better.
I'd love to visit Iceland. The landscapes look surreal, and I've heard the people are very friendly. Iceland is stunning. Another tip I'd give is to learn a few phrases in the local language, even if you're using English most of the time.
Speaking of accents, have you ever had trouble understanding someone because of their accent?
Yes, that's a great way to show respect and connect with locals. Have you ever had a positive experience because you tried speaking the local language?
Yes, in Scotland. The accent was so thick that I had to ask them to repeat themselves several times.
Yes, in Japan. I learned how to say hello and thank you in Japanese, and people were so appreciative.
But that's part of the fun, right? Learning to adapt to different ways of speaking is a great skill.
That's wonderful. Another thing I love about traveling is the chance to learn about history and culture. Have you ever visited a place that left a lasting impression on you?
Definitely. Another thing I love about traveling is meeting people from different cultures.
Yes, I visited the pyramids in Egypt, and it was awe-inspiring. The history there is incredible.
That's amazing. Traveling really does bring people together. Another tip I'd give is to join local tours or activities. It's a great way to practice English and learn about the culture at the same time.
That sounds like an unforgettable experience. Another tip I'd give is to take lots of photos and write captions in English. It's a fun way to practice writing.
That sounds like a great experience. Do you have any other tips for practicing English while traveling?
Yes, I have one for every trip. It's a great way to reflect on my experiences and track my progress in English.